Right, it's your detective stories part two. So we finished off with penal servitude. Then you think he has the booty hidden somewhere, waiting for him to take it when he comes out? Sure of it, the detective replied. Don't it stand to reason? He was ruined anyway, and the assaults which his temper had led him into made a heavy sentence certain. He might as well have something to show for it when it's all over. Just so. Well then, Inspector, where do I come in? Mr. Murray drew out a pocketbook. 3 weeks before his escape, James Rudmore, who had been a model prisoner for the first, was allowed the privilege of writing a letter in accordance with the regulations. He wrote to his father. Now it so happened that old Rudmore, had then been himself in jail 6 months or more. I had arrested him too. The charge was fraudulent bankruptcy, and it was a clever piece of crooked work as ever came into court, I should think. I took him at his rooms, and he went like a lamb. He pleaded guilty, and he took his dose without any fuss. A philosopher, said Trent. So he never got a letter from James? Certainly not. James Woodmore was informed, in accordance with the regulations, that his letter could not be forwarded, the reason being withheld. He then asked to have it back, and that was a mistake, for the governor of Dartmoor had already taken it into his head that there was something more than met the eye in the letter, and that made him certain of it. He believed it contained a secret message telling old Woodmore where the pendant was. I thought so, I don't know myself, but it was likely enough, of course. The letter was forwarded to Scotland Yard and has been gone over carefully by the experts. They can make nothing of it. That's probably just because they are experts, Trent commented. You want a really scatterbrained man, or shall we call him a man of tropically luxuriant mental gifts, such as myself, for example, to deal with the little dodges of people like the Woodmores. I know now what it is your people want of me. They think the hiding place of the Jew is described in that letter, and if they can discover it and mount guard over it, they will soon get James. I'm going to give an opinion on the letter. There is nothing I should like better. Where is it? The inspector, without reply, drew a folded paper from his pocket. Took it from his pocketbook and he handed it to Trent. He read the following, written in a firm and legible handwriting. Mr. Dear Dad, I'm writing to you. You see that? The first time I'm allowed to say how sorry I am for the misery my disgrace must have caused you when I was made a scapegoat. It was the thought of how you would feel the dishonour to our name that hurt me the most. I wish I could have seen you just once before I was put away here. But you at least will never have doubted my innocence. I know it would be the end for me. Indeed, if I were there, if I was free again, I should find even your door closed against me. I am strong and well, in better health than I have been for years. Most of the time, I've been set to what is really navvy's work in the open air, reclaiming wasteland. At first, it was fearfully hard work, and I used it to wish I had a hinge on my back, as many arms as the idol whose name I forget on your mantel shelf. But I soon got hardened. I have not lived out of door life regularly for some years, and it has made me a new man. I feel trained to it here. I did have one bad bout of fever though, before I got fit. I fancy the climate here. It's rather hard on one if it has a malaria in the system and it isn't up to the mark. The country tools and smells rather like the Gelderland country around Appeldisch, where you remember I was laid up 3 years. But this was a worse attack. I was lightheaded for days, felt like dying. Isn't it something in Shakespeare who talks about the wretch whose fever, weakened joints buckle under life. I felt exactly like that. I'd like to tell you about the life we led there. Well, in my opinion of the system, now a right has to pass under the officials' eyes and sit rather than nicht Eisen. An old Schraub used to say. I sent this to the old rooms in the Jermaine Street, trusting it will reach you, cool boy, your loving son Jim. Trent read this through carefully once, then he looked at Inspector Muirhead with his meditative eye. I love that you don't hate me for just fucking up like that. Muirhead with a meditative eye. Well, demanded that officer. This, said Trent, is what judges in lawsuits call a very proper letter, meaning usually a letter of faint flavour of humbugging artificiality about it. I don't like the note of its pathos, and I think that there hanky-panky about it somewhere. It contains one passage which must be an absolute this must be an absolute lie, I should say. I don't know which you mean, the inspector replied, but all the statements about himself in prison are true enough. He did have a bad illness. Yes, naturally, all those are true. He knew the letter would be read by the authorities, of course. I didn't mean anything of that sort. Look here, I should like to spend some time with you in the reference library. Will you meet me outside the British Museum 1 hour from now? Right, Mr. Trent, the detective rose quickly. You'll find me waiting. You're there. Yeah, I'll be there. No time to lose. It was the inspector who found Trent awaiting him 15 minutes later. A taxi cabin attendants. Jump in, said Trent. The man knows where to go. It didn't take very long after all. He even had time to dash up into Holborn and buy this. He produced a stout screwdriver from his pocket. What on earth for? Inquired Mr. Murray blankly as the cab rushed westward. Where are we going? What have you made on the of the letter? Inquisitive, Trent murmured, shaking his finger at him gravely. His eyes were shining. This surprised him and suppressed elation and expectancy. What is the screwdriver for? Well, you surely will admit that it is prudent to be armed when going after a dangerous man. I got it off Lake and Company, so I'm going to call it Excalibur. Come, Inspector. I ask you, as a reasonable man, what else could one call it? Then as to where we are going to Jermaine Street. Jermaine Street? Mr. Muirhead was staring at his companion as at some strange animal. You think the stuff is there? I think the letter says it is, or was, hidden in old Rodmar's rooms. But I told you, Mr. Trent, Rodmar was hundreds of miles away when the theft took place. His rooms were locked up. Yeah, but isn't it likely that James had a key in them? You told me they were on terms of mutual confidence. The father was quite likely to leave a key with his son in case it should prove useful. And a latch key for the front door too, I dare say. The inspector nodded gloomily. Yeah, it's quite likely. And I suppose your idea is he just walked around to Jermaine Street with the pendant, let himself in, went upstairs to his father's rooms, nicked the thing away, and then strolled off to the club. Certainly it's possible, only nobody happens to think of it. I don't know what anything could have been found if anybody had. With all due regard and reverence to you and your friends, Inspector, let me get the page right. If anything could have been done without the indications in this letter, well, what does... No, here, we are in Jermaine Street. What number, Inspector? 230, right? Trent leaned out the window, instructed the driver. The cab drew up before a shoemaker's shop of such supreme distinction that only 3 unostentatious pairs were placed, as if they had been left there by accident in the window. To the left of the shop was a closed private door for the use of those living in the chambers above. The inspector's ring was answered by an extremely corpulent, mulberry-faced man with snowy-sided whiskers and smooth white hair. His precision of dress and manner, with certain carriage of the body, proclaimed the retired butler. "Well, Hudson, have you forgotten me?" asked the detective, pleasantly, stepping into the well-kept but gloomy little hall. The stout man, he hesitated, then said, "Bless my soul, it's the officer who came to take Mr. Rudmore." His face lost something of its overripe appearance, and he added, as he closed the door, "I do hope it's not another business of that sort. My house will be getting the name of—" "No, don't you worry yourself," the man of authority advised him. "I'm not after anybody in your house, and I want you to know if the rooms the old Rudmore had here occupied at present." The Army Inspector, they were taken shortly after the unfortunate affair by Captain Angel, who has them still, a military gentleman, invalided home from India. I believe a very pleasant, quiet gentleman. Is he at home now? Captain Angel never gives out until luncheon time. Then we want to see him. Don't you trouble to come up, Hudson. Stairs don't agree with you. I can see that. The second floor, if I remember. Second floor and the door on the left, and I do hope, gentlemen. Hudson withdrew, murmuring vague apprehension, and ponderously descended to the basement floor as Mr. Murray followed Mr. Trent went up the narrow stairs. "I thought it better," said the inspector, pausing on the stair, "to go up unannounced. We can't see what see us if we just walk in and make ourselves pleasant." As the two men reached the first landing, they heard the sound of a door closed gently on the one above, and of light stepping feet. A tall girl in neat and obviously expensive tailor-made clothes appeared at the head of the short stairway. Apparently not seeing them, she stood for a moment, adjusting her hat and her veil. Mr. Muirhead heard a growling cough from below, at the noise of which the young lady, she started slightly and hurried down the stairs in half light on the landing. They received, as she passed them, an impression of shining dark hair and barely perceptible perfume. Trent looked after her meditatively, as if she went swiftly along the ground floor passage and let herself out. "Smart woman," observed the inspector appreciatively, as the front door slammed. "A fine example of healthy modern girlhood," Trent agreed. "Did you see the stride and swing as she went to the door? From the cut of her clothes, I should say she was American." There was a note in his voice which made the other look at him sharply. "And," pursued Trent, returning his gaze with an innocent eye, "I suppose you noticed her feet and ankles as she stood up there and as she came down the stairs?" "I did not," returned Mr. Murray gruffly. "What was there to notice?" "Only the size," said Trent. "The size, and the fact that she was wearing a man's shoes." For an instant the inspector glared at him wild-eyed, then turned and plunged without a word down the stairway. He reached the door and tore at the handle. "It's locked. Door was locked from outside. Here, Hudson," he bellowed. He swore loud and savagely as the fat man was heard shuffling across the passage in the basement below and labouring heavily up the stairs. "Give me your latchkey," he commanded, as Hudson was staring housemaid in his wake appeared, trembling and gasping for a few moments, filled with the vivid language of the enraged officer. The man fumbled at a trouser pocket. At last he produced his key. Mr. Muirhead seized it and endeavoured to thrust it into that keyhole. After half a dozen vain attempts, he resigned the key to Hudson, who grasped the situation at the first try. "I'm afraid whoever double-locked it has left the key in the other side," he panted. "This'll never go in till the other's taken out." Mr. Muir had suddenly recovered his calm, stuck his hands in his pockets. "He's done us," he announced. "You could reach Piccadilly in 15 seconds from here, without hurrying. It's a clean getaway. Probably he's blowing off in a taxi by now. Hudson, why the devil didn't you say there was a lady with a captain? I'd never let him pass me if I'd known he was coming from those rooms." "I never knew there was anyone with him indeed, Inspector." whatever the old man. His mind was wrestling feebly with the confusion of genders. I expect it was this girl that let her in. How was I to know there was anything wrong? Cried the domestic, bursting into tears. She spoke like a perfect lady, and she set up with her card and all. I never thought till this minute. All right, my girl, said the inspector brusquely. You'll get into no trouble if you're straight. Hudson, I want you to telephone in the back room there. Right, you better fucking hail somebody next door and get your door open. They didn't say fucking I did. The detective disappeared into the room and Hudson shuffled down the passage to the back of the building, still in a dazed condition. What I don't see, he mumbled, is where she or he or whoever the fuck it was got the key from. Now that he said it, Trent, who had been leaning against the wall with a face of great contentment, suddenly turned and fled lightly up the stairs. Captain Angel's door opened easily. Captain Angel himself, a small, cropped-headed man, lay upon a sofa near the window of his tastefully furnished sitting room. As Trent burst in, a look of relief came into the captain's bewildered eyes, may I say. The rest of his face below them was covered by an improvised gag made out of a tobacco pouch and a tightly knotted silk scarf. His ankles were tied together and his arms lashed to his sides with a box cord. He looked wretchedly uncomfortable. 5 minutes later, in answer to a call from Trent, Mr. Muir called his conversation with Scotland Yard, and he came upstairs. He found Captain Angel sitting in an armchair, restoring his physical tone with a deep glass of whiskey and soda. To Trent's account of how he had found that ill-used officer, the detective answered only with a grim nod. "And I suppose it was your latchkey, sir," he said to the victim. "Yes," replied the little captain. "She took my latchkey. He did, I mean. Tell you just how it was. She sent up a card. His, I should say. Well, it was a woman's card. Anyway, I put it up here." He rose and he took a card from the mantel shelf. Mr. Muir glanced at it with curiosity. "Of course," he exclaimed. "Miss Van Someren's card, is it?" asked Trent from his chair by the window. "It is. And Miss Van Someren's clothes and hat, and Miss Van Someren's little bag, and Miss Van Someren's own particular perfume. They all went by us just now," Trent remarked, "in company with, I expect, Mr. Van Someren's shoes and Mr. James Rodmore's wig. Probably he was, let me get the right fucking page, a little excited at seeing you, Inspector, awaiting him at the bottom of the stairs. Needed some nerve for him to stand there fixing his fucking veil without a quiver and to trip downstairs right into your yearning embrace, as one may say. Annoyance, self-reproach, menacing resolve, and appreciation of the comic side of the episode. All these things were in the inspector's eloquent answering grunt. If only he had remembered to walk on the low passage like a lady instead of like a champion lightweight, Trent resumed. I don't suppose the meaning of the shoes would have burst upon me as it did. I dare say his hold on himself began to go when he saw the street door and safety 6 steps in front of him. Yet that latchkey business was pretty coolly done. Jimmy's certainly a gifted amateur, but you were telling us, they turned to the obviously mystified captain, how she made her appearance, and that's how it's fucking ends for now. Bye bye.